Karumbu Thottathile. Karumbu Thottathile. What does that mean? It means, in the sugarcane fields. And where are we? And who is this who's asking the question? An exclamation actually, not a question. Well, the period is the beginning of the 20th century. India still under colonial rule. And where are we now? We are in the Philippines, where our women have been taken to work on the sugarcane fields. Remember, these are Indian women in Philippines and taken, of course, by our British rulers. And what are they doing? They are working far away from home. And our poet who is describing that is Subramania Bharati. Yes, the Mahakavi, the one who is supposed to have brought Tamil poetry from its ancient classical time to modern language, modern themes, modern language. He was so popular that his poems used to be sung at all those national patriotic get-togethers. There was a speech, of course, but then his poems were sung there. And what did he talk about? He talked about the emancipation of women. He talked against child marriage. He talked about the importance of widow marriage and so much more. A revolutionary at the beginning of the 20th century. So in this poem, this is what he is going to do. Of course, we will read the poem in Tamil to understand the pain. We will read and we will see how, though there was no slavery, bonded labor was probably worse than slavery. Let's see how the poem goes. Karumbu Thottathile. Karumbu Thottathile. அவர் கால்களும் கைகளும் சோர்ந்து விழும்படி வருந்துகின்றனே. இந்து மாதர்த்தம் நெஞ்சு கொதிக்க கொதிக்க மெய் சுருகின்றனே. அவர் துன்பத்தை நீங்க வழியில்லையோ, ஒரு மருந்தில்லையோ, செக்கு மாடுகள் போல் தேங்குகின்றார் அந்த கரும்பு தோட்டத்திலே. What is the poem? What is the poet telling us? Where are they? As I mentioned, they are in the sugarcane fields. Tired, both their hands and legs. It looks as if they will fall any moment. And then he uses a word which you might wonder about. Hindu madartham nenju kodittu kodittu mei shurugindranare. He's talking about the women there. And why does he mention Hindu women? Because remember, most of them were taken from South India, from Arcot, and they were taken there. So most of them, we are looking at a particular part of India, at a particular moment in history here. And how are they? Chekku maadugal pol pol ulaithu thengugindranare. You know, like the oxen which go round and down the oil press. That is how these women are working here. Pennendru sollidalo oru peyum irungu enbar. The moment you use the word a woman, we say that even a ghost, even a spirit, even a demon will probably feel softened. Devame ninadu ennam irangado, அந்த ஏழைகள் அங்கு சொரியும் கண்ணீர் வெறும் மண்ணிற் கலத்திடுமோ, தெற்கு மாடல்கள் உருவினோ அங்கோர் கண்ணற்ற தீவினிலே தனி காட்டினர் பெண்கள் புழுங்குகின்றார். Far away, and remember Philippines, the island, so far away that even the wind there is different from the wind that they are used to. So it's all so different, and yet there is nobody to sympathize with them, he says. Nattai ninaiparo? What are these women doing as they are working? Nattai ninaiparo? Are they thinking about their country? Endha naalinal poyadai kanbadendre. Annai veettai ninaiparo? Are they thinking about their mother's home? Remember, the motherland or the home, the society, the village that they are used to. அவர் விம்மி 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 அழும் குரல் கேட்டிருப்பாய் காற்றே. Who is there to hear the sound of their weeping? Vimmi, vimmi, vimmi. You know, you go on, probably expressing your anguish only with your tears and the sighs. Does the wind hear it? Because there's nobody else to sympathize with them. துன்ப கேணியில் எங்கள் பெண்கள் அழுது சொல்லும் மீட்டும் ஒரேயாரோ அவர் விம்மி அழும் திறங்கெட்டு போயினர் கரும்பு தோட்டத்தினிலே. கரும்பு தோட்டத்தினிலே. And then the poem goes on how there is nobody as they are alone there. And of course the poem ends with a hope to God, to Devi. You know, the poet Subramania Bharati was a great upasak, a devotee to the Shakti, to the goddesses of Hindu religion. Hey, Veerama, Kali, Shamundi, Kalishwari, Karumbu Thottathile, you are the only ones who can hopefully help these women as they continue to cry. As they continue, they can't cry aloud because there's nobody who's going to sympathize with them. And remember, there was this little arrangement, it's called Kangani in Tamil, where you have the supervisors also, sadly, are from this part, that is from our country. They've also been taken there. They are the one who make these women work, obviously, because their masters ensure that these supervisors make our women work. What is this about? This is about these helpless, hapless women, far away from home, continue to work day in and day out. The poet doesn't say it, but to my mind, it also brings in the fact of being away, not only from your home, but from your family, maybe your husband, maybe your children, because the poem only mentions the women, and that sets me thinking, does Bharatiya do it on purpose, or is it that the poem is about the women working there? What are you thinking about, I think? Nahi rasad darshate kashchit artah pravartate. I can't but quote Bharatamuni from the Natya Shastra. No meaningful idea is conveyed if rasa is not evoked. All of us, readers, appreciators of English poetry, or maybe Western poetry, European poetry, have heard of Aristotle and his theories. But the more we move into our own poetry, Indian poetry, down the ages, it can be ancient poetry or it can be present-day poetry, we realize that there is a theory which really answers all those questions that Aristotle attempted to answer. And that we do through the rasa theory. Rasa, taste, juice, maybe many words come to your mind. But to me, it is important to understand rasa as essence. What is there in poetry? And there have been various arguments and interpretations down the ages. Do we have 8 rasas? No, but unless you have Shanti. So we bring in the 9th rasa. There are people who tell us 11 rasas. But I won't go into all that theory. How does it matter? It's only a number. What is important for us to understand is that when we read any poetry, any literature for that matter, why literature, any art, there is something that is being represented which we call bhava. And when that bhava gets transmuted or translated into the viewer, the listener, the reader, whoever it may be, it creates a rasa. So you see a scene, that is the bhava. And what it does to you becomes the rasa. So when I look at this poem, what are the rasas? And we must remember that no poem, no piece of art need have one rasa. It's not possible. You can't put them into watertight compartments. You can't put them into slots. So a number of rasas can be evoked. Look at the poem. Think of the poem that I read out to you just now, and you will see one of the most important rasas, the bhava, which creates the rasa in us, is one of viraha. Viraha is separation. Generally, in a Hindi movie, for example, you'll have the leaves falling down, it'll be autumn, to indicate that the lovers are separated. These are not lovers, but viraha is just as difficult, as painful, when these women have been pulled out from their homeland, from their families, from their children, and taken to another town. Karumbu Thottathile. When you think of them standing there all alone, it is one of viraha. But as I mentioned, we don't have to have only one rasa. Another one which is there all the time is one of sorrow. I wish I could go through all the 9 rasas, which I'm sure we will do as we go episode after episode. But to look at what is happening, there is sorrow. Sorrow, of course, connected to the fact of, to the rasa of life. So we have to remember that no poem is about themes, no poem is about meaning, but it's important, the objective correlative that another critic had spoken about. What is it that I feel? Do I feel the same thing that the poet felt when he wrote the poem? I think Karumbu Thottathile does that beautifully for me. 100 years ago, a problem existed. Does that mean it does not exist anymore? Being away from home, being taken away from home, the concept of bonded labor, has anything changed? Have any of these disappeared today? I think that's what makes any piece of literature universal. Time and space make no difference to great art. How is it important today? What does it evoke in you, in the modern reader, whatever age we may be in, wherever we may be living? I think the fact that maybe our jobs, maybe you may be highly paid CEOs in some other part of the world, but that feeling that I'm not with my loved ones, I'm not where I was born, where I grew up, where all my childhood experiences came from. I think all of us, at some stage or the other, have this feeling. And we wish, a wish maybe which will never be fulfilled. You know, that safety of the womb that we talk about, to go back to that place which is so important to me. I think that resonates with us. And also the fact that very often it is economic compulsions that take us away. It is that पेट का सवाल hai, as we would say in Hindi. We are taken to some other place. And we work there, we live there, and probably never ask ourselves, am I happy? Well, happiness is one of the things that we all look for. How many of us get it? And to what extent? Well, that's a theory that we may have to discuss at some other stage. In the meantime, let us see how this poem still resonates even 100 years later. A much touted word today is diaspora. You know, 100 years ago we hardly used the word. But today, in the poem, I would like to think of this phrase as being very important to me. Nattai ninaipparo. Do they think of their country? That appealed to me because it's so true for so many of us. Is there a word, a phrase that you thought was important to you? Maybe in the poem as I read it out to you or explained it, or in my Rasa Theora. Do comment, because I would like to know what appealed to you most in this poem.